This is the nature of everything. Don't stay stuck.
Do you ever catch yourself saying, like, I know exactly what I need to do, but then you're still not doing it? You know, like you're staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. and you're replaying the day and you realize that you did it again. You kicked the can down the road.
I mean, that right there, that's the gap, the distance between your best intentions and your actual reality. And it is the single most frustrating place a person can be.
It's not about missing a workout, or procrastination. It's deeper. It's about the version of you that exists in your head. The one who's disciplined, kind, they're wealthy, they're fit, they have all this space and generosity. And the version that actually looked back at you in the mirror this morning, that one.
And today, we aren't just talking about those habits you're mentioning. We're diving into why that gap exists, exactly, what it's costing you, whether it's cold, hard cash or self-respect. But either way, we want to make sure we look at how we finally close that.
Yeah, and we're not talking about someday. We're talking about closing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the nature of everything. Let's start by naming it, because you can't fight a ghost. The gap isn't just some abstract concept. It's that gnawing, low-grade anxiety that you feel when you know that you're capable of more, but you're performing less.
Absolutely. And look, the psychological world, it has a term for this. It's called intention behavior gap. And studies show that even when people have 100% clarity on their goal, their actual behavior only comes out at about 30%.
Can we pause on that for a second? 30%?
Which is crazy, right? It means that 70% of the time, the average person is off the mark. For their own life plan, they're 70% off the mark.
Dude, that's terrifying. I mean, But what's terrifying is that it makes sense, because I think that we assume the gap is, in our life is because we're lazy or we're forgetful. But that's not it, is it? I think it's because we built this legend in our heads. Like I have my ideal future beau. He gets up at 4 a.m. He writes a book in a month. He has hard conversations, no sweat. He's completely aligned.
Yeah. Let me guess. You hate that guy because you're really jealous of that guy.
I sort of do. I mean, he's awesome, but honestly, he's intimidating as hell.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I mean, you see that future self, and instead of feeling motivated, you feel like naked and exposed. And you're like judged by your own imagination. Like, damn, I don't know if I can sustain that level of perfection. Or can you? Maybe.
I mean, this is wild to think about. Yes. I mean, but what do? Like, we shrink, we self-sabotage, we start like slow playing, our potential, because stepping toward that legendary version, it feels risky, because if I try to be that awesome future beau and I fail, then I'm a failure. But if I don't even try, I'm just chilling.
Absolutely. And look, it's the perfect defense mechanism. Dr. Kristen Neff says in her work on self-compassion, she says, we can be incredibly harsh with ourselves in the pursuit of greatness, forgetting that growth only happens in safe environments.
Man, that's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't grow from shame. We absolutely grow from safety. That's not to mean that you have to stay in a comfortable spot. We all know that growth comes in discomfort by pushing the boundaries, but we also grow from safety. If your nervous system feels like, your future beau is somehow a threat, it will absolutely, physically prevent you from even remotely taking action.
Yeah. And so if we know the gap is there, and we know it hurts, like, why do we stay in it? I mean, why do we keep circling the same mountain year after year from 24 to 25 to 26? Let's not do it.
Absolutely, Bo, because we know that behavior isn't driven by clarity. We absolutely know that it's driven by comfort. Most of us, when we stay stuck, it's because it is familiar. It is comfortable. And the brain loves that familiarity. The brain actually views familiar misery safer than being successful that is unfamiliar. It's weird, man.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's survival wiring from our, reptilian brains.
Exactly. This is where we have to look at like the science of habits. James Clear talks about the habit loop: cue, craving, response, reward. The problem is your gap behavior is a perfectly designed habit loop.
Break that down for me.
All right. So the habit loop: cue, craving, response, reward. Start with cue. You feel pressure to perform. Okay. So you're cued in on that. Craving, you want relief from that pressure. Your response, like you scroll TikTok, you clean the kitchen, rearrange the garage, whatever you procrastinate. That's going to be your response to this pressure. Your reward is that temporary hit of calm. Like your anxiety goes down for just 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes, however long you are putting this off. The reward is that temporary hit of calm that you get from not dealing with this at the moment.
That makes sense. I mean, it just does. And look, at the same time, you just trained your brain that avoidance equals safety.
Bingo. That is the practice you've just put in place, or this is the practice that we've all been just substantially concreting all of this time. Because every time you run that loop, you're reinforcing the gap that you're in. You aren't just not doing what you're supposed to. You're not just avoiding this moment. You're actively training your brain. You're actively training yourself to be a person that you don't want that person to exist, because this is the person that doesn't do the work. But yet you're constantly in that training piece to where you are solidifying that practice.
Thinking about that future self and our present self and the gap, like it brings us to some kind of identity crisis. Because now the gap isn't just between you and your task, it's between you and your self-worth. You start telling yourself stories like, I'm just not disciplined. Or you would say like, I'm a starter, not a finisher. Those aren't facts. I've said that a million times before. I love to start things. I'm actually really, really great at starting things.
That's true. That's true.
Those are the stories that we write to explain the gap.
Yeah. In our partnership. Yeah, for sure. I'll say that if that belief system is actually rooted in shame, then in the same sense, I think you can white knuckle your way to success for like a few weeks. Like I think that you can just by sheer willpower push through for a while, but I think you're going to snap back. I think there's going to be this like rubber band effect to where you get to a place and you push for a while, but then boom, you're going to fall back in, because I don't think that you can outperform this self-image that you create for yourself.
So we're going to have to change the image. All right, everybody, pause a second, deep breath. And if you're driving or at the gym or washing dishes, like if this is hitting a little too close to home, good. And that means that you're actually in the work.
Yeah. And if this is resonating, do us a quick favor. Hit that follow button on your podcast app. It helps us grow, but more importantly, it trains your algorithm to feed you content that actually moves the needle rather than just distracting you.
Yeah, and look, we talk about coining your life a lot. And if you want the tools that actually bridge this gap and not just talk about it, head to coinyourlife.com. Grab the book, get the free daily check-in tool. We're going to build a community of people who are tired of the gap.
And it's not about perfection. It's about practice. So go check it out at coinyourlife.com.
All right, so let's get back into it. Like, we've admired the problem long enough.
It's so
like,
beautiful.
all right, the gap is real, it's comfortable, and it's ruining our potential. So how do we close it, Clint? I mean, how do we move from knowing to doing without needing a personality transplant?
Well, I mean, we have to get strategic. We talk about the nature of everything on this show. And this is where that particular rubber meets the road. Again, it's not about willpower. It's about having an actual process.
Yes. Like before you try to fix anything, you have to confirm it.
You just look at it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most people lie about their gap. They say like, I didn't have time. I mean, you had time. Mm-hmm. You were scared. It's okay. Yeah. Confirming it just means looking at the data without flinching. I said I would write today. I did not write today. I felt anxious, so I scrolled instead. Like, don't layer on all the feelings about it. Just be honest with the person who already knows the truth.
Sure. With neutrality. I mean,
yes,
much like, like a scientist looks at a petri dish, they're not emotional about it. There's no judgment. It's just data. And once you see the data, you have to own it at that point.
Yeah.
Because realistically, that really is the pivot point, right? Taking responsibility for the gap without taking on the shame. It's saying,
that's hard.
Oh, yeah, it is. But you're able to say, I created this gap. Not my boss, not my spouse, not the economy, not the politics, like me. Because here's the real trick. If you own the messiness, if you own the mistakes, you also own the solution. If you're the problem, well, holy shit, you're also the answer.
I love that. I love that because it puts the power back in your hands. So we've seen it and we've owned it. And now we have to actually do something about it. We have to be intentional.
And this is where like the tactics come into play. This is where we need to be realistic about how we tackle this, how we enter this particular issue.
Right. So instead of saying like, hey, I'm going to write my whole book, you say, I'm going to write one messy paragraph after lunch. You have to trick your nervous system. If the step is small enough, then the fear kind of doesn't wake up. It's like you're tiptoeing around a monster.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you have to implement things, intentionally, just like anything else. It's just like it's like the if then trigger. If it's 6 p.m., and that's when you run, that's when you exercise. Or if it's noon, if it's 6 a.m., and that's when you run, then I put my running shoes on at that time, right? You remove the decision-making process. If then, like if it's this, then I do this. Decision fatigue is real as well. So if you can put things in place to where your intentionality is handled by this if then trigger, then you don't get worn out and exhausted by, well, is this the time? Should I go do this now? Or I could put this off later. No, just design the trigger. If this, then this, and make it a non-negotiable.
Yeah. And look, design your environment. If your gap lives in the kitchen, and there are Oreos on the counter, you lose. If your gap lives on your phone and the notifications are on, you lose. Right? Willpower is a finite resource. You can't rely on it. But you can rely on intentional design. Hide the Oreos, put the phone up.
Yeah, because the if then trigger works both ways. Because like you're saying, like if the Oreos are on the counter, then I'm going to eat them. If my phone notifications are on, then I'm going to, lose focus and
be notified.
Yeah, right. And so the if then sort of idea works in both ways. Like if the trigger is best for you, then the trigger will work for you. If the trigger is probably not in your best interest, then it's going to lead to the things that you don't want, which that is sort of our final shift as we're talking about this. And really sort of the most important one. It's why we named the podcast what we did, because you have to change the nature of how you visualize these items and most importantly, how you see yourself.
This is the identity piece.
Like stop trying to like quote unquote do the habit and start being that person, whether you call it fake it till you make it or whatever you need to put in there to close this gap. Don't say, well, I can't eat that. No, you say, I'm not the kind of person who eats that right now. You don't have to say, well, I have to go run. If you see yourself as an athlete, if that's where you see yourself, if that's where you place yourself, then it's no drag on you to have to go run because an athlete runs. That's what they do.
Yeah, it sounds subtle, right? I mean, but it's neurolinguistic programming. Like it is literally just like we always talk about, you got to name it. Often we're talking about you got to name the problem, name the shame, name the things. But you also have to name what you want to be true because that rewires the brain. When you change the nature of your identity on the inside, your actions kind of follow that automatically. When you name it and bring awareness to a thing, you don't have to force things anymore. They just show up in your RAS, your reticular activating system, and good things happen. It's metaphysical. I don't know how to explain it.
It's just what they do, right? I mean,
Yes, it is.
That really is the loop. I mean, confirm the truth, you own the result, you act with intention, and eventually you change your nature.
Slow down a bit and let's say something. We're giving you this framework coin and it works, but I don't want you to think that Clint and I have this like perfectly figured out. That future beau that we talked about earlier, the one who's grounded and calm and just always crushing it, like he's still terrifying to me sometimes.
Yeah, terrifying.
Yeah, literally. I mean, sometimes I'll start closing the gap and I'll get some momentum and this voice just comes in like, well, who do you think you are? You're just on this podcast. Nobody really knows you. They don't know that you want to go back for the snack at 10 o'clock. They don't know that you really want to sleep in. They don't know that you're secretly angry about things. You're just Bo. You're no guru. And I realized like the gap, it's not about productivity. It's about worthiness. I think it's about whether or not we actually believe that we deserve to become these people that we see in our heads.
To your point, I don't think it's about earned worthiness from outside in any way. All of those things that you're thinking, they're not substantiated from outside in any way. But I mean, like having that internally, that's the heavy lift though, isn't it?
Yeah. And look, I wish I could say that I beat this voice once and then I'm free. But the truth is, it's like, it's something that I and we and all of us will step into the ring with every single week, month, year, whatever it is. Some days you're going to win and some days you're going to sit on the ropes and you're going to get the crap beat out of you. But look, every time you get back in the ring, you're going to collect another coin. You're going to prove to yourself that showing up, even shaky, even messy, is still forward motion.
Well, then maybe that's the whole deal, right? I mean, closing the gap, it's not about being certain. It is, however, about being willing. It's not about dominating the fear because that's probably not feasible on the daily. Fear's out there. Hesitation is out there. Lack of confidence. It's always out there. And it's not about just dominating that. It's not letting that decide who you are.
I mean, that's tough. So look, here's the challenge this week. Find the one gap, just one. Name it. Maybe it's a conversation you're avoiding, or maybe it's a project that you're stalling on. And ask yourself, like, what's one move that I can make, even if I don't feel worthy yet?
Yeah, and then make that move. Make it anyway, because you don't think your way into a new life. You can't just psychologize yourself into that next sort of era. You act your way into it. You have to put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, and hey, before we cut the mic, if you're still listening, I want you to know something. You're not just some audience person or some listener to us. If you're here, you're a friend.
Yeah, you are part of what we're building here. And please be assured, we don't want you doing any of this by yourself. It doesn't require you doing this alone.
Yeah. So look, if you're stuck or if you just want to bounce an idea off somebody who actually gets it, hit us up on the DMs on social. We actually read them. We want to hear from you.
For sure. Do not be a stranger. We are all in this together. We are a community that can take steps together.
So thanks for listening, and we're going to see you next time on The Nature of Everything.
Before you go, just know it's time. Time to connect. Time to change the nature of everything. Don't stay stuck. Find us at coinyourlife.com.